Bill Hitchcock. Special edition. Yesterday, the North Carolina Marine Fisheries Commission had their quarterly business meeting at the Hilton in Raleigh. Wednesday night, that was August the 21st. Public comment. Here we're showing to you the public comment. What we're going to be doing today is showing you the highlights from yesterday's meeting in Raleigh, the public comment period. 9 people showed up, and I'm going to go on and throw up the list of 9 people that showed up from mainly inland areas. There's two places that folks came from that were along the coast. But these 9 folks, most of them associated with the Coastal Conservation Association. No surprise. Only one admits it, though. Only one of them come up front and says, I work for the Coastal Conservation Association. And it's a very unique thing. But let's jump on into it. Again, we're highlighting the comments from the Marine Fisheries Commission Quarterly meeting up there in Raleigh that's going on right now. And you can go back right now and attend the meetings and see. But let's start off with, and by the way, I've got the transcript to everything. And when we go to the actual meeting, we're going to have, for lack of a better term, a closed caption underneath it. And the reason why is sometimes the microphone doesn't pick things up. Sometimes the room, there's ambient noise. Sometimes the speakers aren't exactly clear. So I went on and put, for again, lack of a better term, a closed captioning underneath it so you can read and hear what they're saying. The only other thing, I'll just point it out here. Here in the extreme corner is where the people sit that are commentating. So half of the time you're not seeing them, and on the best case scenario, you're getting an earshot of them. But just look over here. This is where the folks will be when they come up to speak. And the last thing, and again, I apologize if I mispronounce a name. I'm going off of the transcript that I have from the meeting, so apologize. The first person that speaks is Bill Mandelak. And I believe, I could be wrong, he's with the CCA. I don't know. That name's just really, really familiar to me. But Bill Mandelak, he brings up a great point, and it will come back up. But let's go into the meeting. The very first person, Bill Mandelak. Let's see what he has to say.
Good evening, and thank you for having this meeting so close to my house. I just wanted to make a couple quick comments. One, I think I sent a note that y'all should have gotten, an email, concerning opening the season for summer flounder and for Gulf flounder for recreational fishermen. I think it's a shame that we can't fish on those fish. I talked to some people from Atlantic States Commission, and there are other states who do that. They have separate rules for different flounders that they have. They're able to, actually in New York and New Jersey, they can tell them apart. And I figure if they can tell them apart, we sure ought to be able to. And we've only got 3 species to worry about, and only one of them's in trouble. And the others we have a potential to have a recreational fishery on the other ones.
I love it. He says, concerning opening the season for summer flounder and for Gulf flounder for recreational fishermen, I think that it's a shame that we can't fish on those fish. We've 3 different types of flounders here in North Carolina: summer flounder, southern flounder, and Gulf flounder. Why? It was the southern flounder that they closed up, so they closed up the whole fishery. So why can't we fish on the other flounders? It's a wonderful point. Next person up is Scott Mooneyham. He's from Fayetteville. He's making reference to speckled trout or spotted sea trout. Let's see what he has to say.
Good evening. My name is Scott Mooneyham. I'm a recreational fisherman from Fayetteville. I'm here to address spotted sea trout Amendment 1. A big reason that the speckled trout during my lifetime has been a primary target of inshore fishermen is because of their resilience. That resilience is not my opinion. It is the opinion of your own science on the subject, and it's based on the fish's biology. One of your own studies by Tim Ellis shows that the natural mortality is responsible for 81 to 92% of fish deaths, with recreational and commercial catch and discards accounting for 8 to 19%. These fish live to a maximum of 9 years, They reach 15 inches by 2 years of age. They begin spawning between 1 and 2 years of age. They reach 20 inches by 3 years of age.
Well, first of all, Scott, I never knew that somebody fished a fish because it was resilient. I've never heard anybody, I fish for king mackerel because they're resilient. I've never heard that. Your information that you give out, wrong. Too bad you didn't see the show that we just put out yesterday. He's talking about the dead catch and discards counting for 8% to 19%. The recreational commercial catch and discards accounting for 8% to 19%. Well, let's see here. The stock assessment, we just did this show yesterday. The stock assessment used an average recreational discard mortality rate of 10%, that's on the rec side, and 30% on the commercial side. Again, that's from the fishery management plan. Got that direct from the Division of Marine Fisheries. Yesterday we did a show. I'm going to put the link to the show we just did on speckled trout, on the dead discard, and also on shrimp trawls on their bycatch. We're going to get into that, but I'm going to put the link to that show underneath here because we just produced that show yesterday or the day before. But let's go on back to Scott and see what else he has to say.
Instead, on the recreational side, it appears to be the number of live discards or releases and increased catches overall that is driving the proposal to further restrict the creel limit. I would submit that in doing so, you'll be increasing the very trend that you seek to remedy if you lower these limits as currently proposed, because you will be causing more recreational discards. And of course, once in place, this new creel limit will never be increased.
Scott actually brings up an interesting point. He says, so you'll be increasing the very trend that you seek to remedy if you lower these limits as currently proposed, because you'll be causing more recreational discards. And of course, once in place, the new creel limit will never be increased. Now, I want to address that, which was addressed in the Speckled Trout. I'm telling you, you got to watch that show. Is that on average, over the past 33 years, recreational fishermen have released 78% of their speckled trout catches. 78%. In years, I think 2010 and 2011, it was in the 90 percentile. It blows my mind, the number of releases in the recreational side. And the point that's being made here, if you got 10% dead discard off a release, that the more you release, the more the dead discard is going to happen. For example, if you have 10,000 speckled trout that you release, well, 10% of that are going to die, so 1,000 are going to die. If the releases increase, say it's 100,000 that you're releasing, well, guess what? At 10%, that's 10,000 speckled trout that will die. So he's making a very valid point. Next person, Mark Bettger. He's from Wilson. Let's hear what he has to say.
Mark Bettger.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine. Grew up all my life fishing recreationally in North Carolina. A lot of the talk around, flounder and trout is around dead discards, but we have still failed to address the massive amount of dead fish produced in our trawlers fishery for shrimp. I think the pretty well established and accepted number is 3 pounds of bycatch for every 1 pound of shrimp. NC's averaged about 8 million pounds of shrimp caught over the last 5 years. That comes out to about 25 million pounds of bycatch, depending on the makeup of that bycatch, how big those fish are. That's hundreds of millions of juvenile fish killed every year in our shrimp trawl fishery.
I just want to scream. He says, I think the pretty well established and accepted number is 3 pounds of bycatch for every 1 pound of shrimp. Again, look at this show we just did a couple of days ago. From the Division of Marine Fisheries, in terms of shrimp bycatch, there is no accepted number or ratio of bycatch to shrimp. Sorry, Mark, why didn't you do your research? I mean, this is public information. Anybody can access this stuff. And there you are at a Marine Fisheries Commission meeting spouting, well, I think pretty well established accepted number is 3 pounds. At least I'm not hearing that 4.5 pound thing anymore, which we showed you why that was wrong. But it says there is no accepted number or ratio of bycatch to shrimp. The ratio method of overestimates bycatch and assumes a positive linear relationship between bycatch species and the target species. Basically what they're saying, you can't apply one number universally. There's all different types of shrimp trawls. We just showed you one with the alligator 3-4 days ago. It was just a little skiff. There's skimmer trawls, there's otter trawls, there's different times of years, there's different places. So you cannot get a universal number. You can't do that to any fishery. I don't care if it's recreational or commercial. You cannot use a universal number. So the CPU catch per unit effort method of estimating shrimp trawl bycatch is the accepted method used by NOAA and CDAR, which is the Southeast Data Assessment and Review. See Appendix of 1 of Amendment 2 to the Shrimp FNP. Again, if you've done your homework, you do realize, by the way, when you're sitting there in front of the Marine Fisheries Commission, they have this information. And so when you spout things like that, they know that you're wrong. They'll just sit there and listen to you. Think about that. All right, who's up next? Who's up next? Dan Moses. He is the president of the Eastern Carolina Saltwater Fishing Club of New Bern. What does our New Bern Bear have to say?
Their proposal was a good compromise addressing the issues associated with that fishery, yet you have chosen to deviate from that proposal and develop your own ideas as to how to address the issue that trout may be in a status where overfishing is occurring. As we have seen in your botched attempt to address the flounder issue with a complete seasonal closure, you are now wanting to make the same failed attempt to enact a seasonal closure on spotted sea trout. You are slowly taking away any opportunity for the recreational fishermen to take any fish for their own use. Seasonal and or complete closures of fisheries not only affects recreational fishermen, but also the hundreds of local fishing guides that try to make a living as a fishing guide. It also has a tremendous negative impact on the economy of Eastern North Carolina. It makes us wonder what's the point of buying a fishing license when you are so restricted in what fish you are allowed to harvest.
Well, he wasn't a happy camper, as we have seen in your botched attempt to address the flounder issue. How to win friends and influence enemies. Wow. All right. And he goes on to say, seasonal and or complete closures of fisheries not only affect recreational fishermen, but also the hundreds of local fishing guides that try to make a living as a fishing guide. And this is about trout. I don't know if I made that clear. And in lies part of the problem. In his world, there's only two people on the recreational side, the recreational angler and the guide. That composes all of the North Carolina fishery. It's a small, small world. And you can't see outside of that world. I have been saying that you've got a friend in commercial fishermen if you only knew it. I wish you would, everybody would get to know the folks. All right, who's next? Victor Tucker, he's from Warren County, which is up on the Virginia border by Roanoke Rapids and Weldon. Let's see what Victor has to say.
It's important to our future generations that we protect these fish. I do have a few questions concerning this. Why do we allow shrimp industry to kill approximately 1 billion finfish every year? Why does the Marine Fisheries Commission keep making rules only to show failure? Why do we keep electing the same lawmakers who allow this to happen? The best answer I can come up with is cheap shrimp.
Now, I don't, speaking of, numbers, he says, why do we allow the shrimp industry to kill approximately 1 billion finfish every year? Where'd that come from? On this program, every program, I ask people to send me documentation. Send me stuff, send me research, send me science, send me laws, send me management. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. No one has sent me anything. And when I see people sit there, it's 1 billion finfish, where'd that come from? In one of the last couple of shows over the past couple of days, I made comment about when the water temperatures get real hot and there's no dissolved oxygen, that little fish like menhaden die, and you'll hear news reports of 10,000 fish are dead. when I make comment, they're little peanut fish or menhaden, or they're little spots that you could probably put 10,000 of those fish on top of my desk here, which is 4 feet by 2.5 feet. So it's, again, the folks with the Marine Fisheries Commission, they're aware of the studies that are out there. So don't go throwing out just wild ass numbers. It might work for your fishing club. It might work for your CCA fans, but let's get some hard science here. Let's get some fact. He also, let's go on. He says something else. Let's see what else he has to say.
The Marine Fisheries Commission needs to be restructured so that the rules meet the most economic benefit to the state of North Carolina. We need to put North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission over recreational fishing, and we do not need to allow a closure on a season for non-profit.
I'm on you, sir. Thank you for your comments.
Victor says the Marine Fisheries Commission needs to be restructured so that the rules meet the most economic benefit to the state of North Carolina. So now it's a matter of economics, not conservation. It's a matter of economics. See, we've gone down this route before in the past, trying to show when you folks have tried to get shrimp trawls out of the water, you've gone the economic route. It didn't work too good. All right, who's next? Steve Brewster from Richlands. Let's hear what Steve has to say.
Right, we can't do flounder again. I do not do this for me. If it came down to me or some of the commercial guys I know, they could have these fish in a heartbeat. And it is this rift that's just pulling us further and further apart. And I sat on the Speckled Trout Advisory Committee, and I heard from Doug Cross, I heard from Wayne Dunbar, and they're of the standpoint that they simply cannot give anything else up. And I've heard this enough from them that I understand their stance. And I have thought day and night about what we could maybe do to get some kind of equality, to get this sort of toxicity out of it a little bit. And I feel like adaptive management is the only way to move quickly enough to adapt, because if the commercial guys pull back on something, the recreational is going to increase, generally speaking.
Steve, I said before, I pray for you. He's coming up there like the White Knight. He's saying, I don't do this for me. If it came down to me or some of the commercial guys, I know they could have these fish in a heartbeat. It's this rift that's just pulling us further and further apart. He goes on to say something like, and I've heard this enough from them, the commercial fishermen, that I understand their stance. Oh, Steve understands the commercial fishermen. I've thought day and night about what we could maybe do to get some kind of equality, to get this sort of toxicity out of it a little bit. Steve Brewster is the guy that told everybody that I'm being paid by the commercial fishing industry. He berated me, told everybody to avoid my website. He called me names. He stole my copyrighted parts of my copyrighted shows and aired it on his little thing. And now he's sitting there acting like I'm the White Knight on the recreational side for the commercial fishermen. Yay, commercial fishermen. Two-faced. I've had enough of you, Steve. Had enough of you. All right, who's next? I'm skipping somebody. Well, let's go to Mary Ellen. I like this. We're going to play the entire segment of her. Mary Ellen, she comes right out and says, I work for the Coastal Conservation Association. Thank you. She has a great little story. Let's listen to her.
Hi, y'all. I'm Mary Ellen. I work for the Coastal Conservation Association. I'm just going to tell a little story and see if it resonates with anyone. I'm an only child, and everyone says my dad wanted a boy, but he had me, so he took me hunting and fishing. I grew up down east on the Pungo River, and I fished in and around there. He taught me a very sustainable lifestyle, which I love. You know, we get our meat from hunting and fishing and our fruits and veggies from our garden. And I love that, and that's how it should be. And I plan to have a family of my own one day. You know, I would love kids, and I would love to be able to take them on the same waters that I grew up on. I would love my dad to be able to take his grandkids fishing. I would love to keep 4 trout. I would love to keep flounder again. But my dad and I went out there last weekend and it's dead. And it just breaks my heart. And I'm very passionate about this, and I'm going to do everything I can with my organization to make a difference. Young people need to know what it was like. And yeah, so thank you so much for your time. That's all.
It's the second person with a CCA that I'm going to really, yeah, okay. I understand. You want to conserve and preserve and have it for your kids and all that. There's a lot of people that they're earnestly and honestly belonging to the CCA, the Coastal Conservation Association, with that intent, and they think that's what they're doing. So I can't say anything negative about her. All right, the next person, Donald Willis. He's the president of the Coastal Conservation Association Neuse River chapter. What does Donald have to say?
Hello, I'm Donald Willis. Most of you know me, but custom marine fabrication in New Bern is where I have made my income my whole adult life. So I make my money off the recreational fishery. First things first, the albacore need to be protected. We've got to put some guidelines on this fishery before something bad happens to it. It's such an economic driver right now for the recreational fishery. It needs and deserves to be protected. The second thing is the disclosure that we're proposing for trout. We're talking about shutting 1.5 million public trust anglers out of a public trust resource when we have nothing else to catch during January and February. You're shutting the whole fishery down. Maybe there's a couple of drum around, but not many, and they're at the coast. We're basically shutting down the whole fishery, and I do not think that's right.
Well, and I applaud Donald in that he's up front and says, I make my money off the recreational fishery. So he's going to do everything in his power to support that and the people that, because he's got to shop. People come shopping. Of course he's going to be with the CCA. Of course he's going to go, yay, recreational fishermen, boo, commercial. But one thing he says, first things first, the albacore need to be protected. Okay, that's news to me. Doesn't mean they don't need to be. I didn't know that there was an albacore problem in North Carolina, or false albacore, or bonita, or whatever it is you want to call them. There is more than one species, yes. He says the second thing is the disclosure, or the closure that we're proposing for trout. We're talking about shutting 1.5 million public trust anglers out of a public trust resource. I mean, when you start hearing that public trust stuff, CCA! Got that beat in your head. And we're going to be talking about that in the show coming up, about your rights and where they come from. When we have nothing else to catch during January and February. Well, number one, there's not 1.5 million anglers. There's 1 million. So you overshot the runway by 50%. We talked about that in a prior show. Got that from the Division of Marine Fisheries. You don't have 1.5 million recreational fishermen. You got 1 million. And they're talking about it's been proposed closing down the speckled trout fishery for the recreational and the commercial in January and February. I hate to tell you, but there's not too many charters in January and February. The weather's just too snotty. So will it have an impact? Sure. If you close, I don't care when you close, you're going to have an impact. But if I had to pick 2 months out of the year to close it, January and February would be it. Be the least time to go speckled trout. Can you catch speckled trout in January and February? Yes. Been there, done that more than once. But don't make it look like that. A fishery is dependent upon it. You're shutting the whole fishery down. No, you're not. Anyway, now we're going to go to Bert Owens, who's the past chairman of the CCA Crystal Coast chapter. Let's hear what he has to say.
Now on flounder, I've spoken like the gentleman earlier on oscillated flounder, Gulf and summer flounder. In 3 trips not long ago, I caught 60 flounder. I wasn't even targeting flounder. 59 Gulf flounder. I can see the 3 oscillated spots around them like anybody can. They were Gulf flounder. I caught 1 summer flounder out of that group. Now, I was not too far from an inlet.
30 seconds.
Thank you. The further from the inlet you get, the less likely you are. You're probably catching southern flounder. But people can tell the difference between flounder with spots with right circles around them or not. And we should have a season on them. You're supposed to manage fisheries for both groups. You're not doing it when you keep us out of that fishery. So please give the people some flounder to catch. It's the right thing to do, and it's really what you're supposed to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, I gotta agree with them. Like the very first speaker, Bill Mandelak, they're bringing up the fact that there's 3 different types of flounders. One of them is in trouble. Why can't we fish the other 2? Makes sense to me. So there we go. Those are the highlights of the 9 people that spoke at the Marine Fisheries Commission Quarterly meeting on day 1. Today's day 2. We're getting this out before the meeting even starts. Of their 3-day weekend up there in Raleigh. If you're catching this in time, please go, to the meeting. There's one more chance today on Thursday to speak your mind. I love it. Speak your mind, but please. One of these guys got cut off. Remember I was telling you go with an outline because 3 minutes goes by real fast. You think it's going to be an eternity, but no, 3 minutes goes by extremely fast. So be prepared, speak the truth, have facts. Everything that I've talked about here, I've gotten either online or I called somebody at the Division of Marine Fisheries office or some other office and they sent me the information. Do the same. Do not just repeat something you heard at the fishing club, like it's 3 pounds of bycatch per every pound, or the CCA, or whoever it may be. Get the facts, I beg of you. Love to hear from you. Give me an email, billhitchcock@mail.com, billhitchcock@mail.com. Like these videos. Also, post your videos there on YouTube. That's where I get a lot of the information. If you post somewhere else, I won't see it. I just won't see it. But I do want to hear from you. I'm Bill Hitchcock. Until next time, see ya.